Hi, welcome to another episode of the Kanokla Chatter, where we spotlight the people and stories that impact our rural communities.
I'm Leah.
And I'm Justin.
And today we sat down with our CEO, Jill Kuehny, also the instigator behind the Kanokla Chatter podcast, to talk about our 75th anniversary, our annual meeting coming up, and some of the big moments in our history.
One thing's for sure is that Jill loves to talk about Kanokla and the communities we serve. Stay tuned.
Thank you for being here today. Can you tell us, just in case there is someone listening out there in the world that doesn't know who you are yet, who you are and what do you do?
Of course. Jill Kuehny, CEO of Kanokla. Since 2018, I took on this role, but I've been with Kanokla since 1992.
Wow.
And
did you
yes,
know? Wait,
you were born. Barely.
And coincidentally, I started in 2018.
You started with me as in this role. So you never knew me as the accounting role.
No, I heard you were terrible at it. No.
Accounting's fun.
And it is one of the most fun departments at Kanokla.
If you can't have fun while you're doing work, what are we doing here?
Going back to us celebrating 75 years, it started as an uphill battle because it started from nothing.
From nothing. Truly celebrating the 75 years. It's truly about rural people not waiting. We're not going to wait around for someone to build it. So it was truly an economic driver that farmers and neighbors had to come together in 1951. Let's band together and build this ourselves. Everything was speeding up, and those rural communities were not connected. That meant they were not participating economically in the markets. Farmers, to sell their food, because in our plains region, that's predominantly what our industry was. A lot of agriculture still is. How did they connect to markets? They had one phone, but they'd have to go to town to use, so back into that grassroots level of, well, let's build one.
The milestone of 75 years. I was here for the milestone of 70. And then I've seen our different milestones through some of our memorabilia that we still have.
Yes, the 50-year hats.
50 was a big one, yes. Everyone wants to get their hands on a 50-year hat still. Personally, what does that mean to you?
The impact of moving to Caldwell was such a milestone.
In 1991, right?
Yes. March of 91, I took a picture of the plaque that's in our front entryway. That was my way into work since 1992. I saw it being built. So I knew the little houses that were there before because I grew up across the street.
Oh, yeah.
And watching those come down as I would come back and visit my family from college. So I lived in Manhattan. Come back for a visit, I'd point over there. My dad was the veterinarian, so the veterinarian clinic was right there. And I'm like, what's going on? And he said, oh, they're building a telephone office. Wasn't that exciting to me. I'm just like, oh, all right, whatever. And I would head back to school. So it was fun watching that evolution of that go in because they cleared the land. My other neighbor across the street, Glenn Johnson, had donated some land over there. So come to find out, as I dig into the history and I have access to all of the board minutes, that was a vote of 5-4 at that board meeting. And this
to move to Caldwell?
To move to Caldwell. So as I said, we purchased Caldwell in 1984. That was unusual. When we started in 1951, we had a handful of communities that decided, hey, we don't want to do just the city only. We need to band together this new opportunity to get under the REA, Rural Electrification Act.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to allow telecoms in the 40s to go ahead and borrow from USDA to expand our networks, to do what we needed to do to connect. So that's why you'll see several of us celebrating 75 years this year or somewhere around that. So 1951, we collected a handful of those. Now, some of our communities like South Haven and Corbin and Mayfield, those are our older communities.
Mm-hmm.
Caldwell just happened to be bigger, so it was not part of the rural. I call it deeply rural areas. So when we bought it from Contel, I believe, in 1984, the move to ask Kanokla to relocate their headquarters began. And by 1986 in
because
the board
we were
minutes,
headquartered in
Anthony, Kansas. We started in Waldron, which is a tiny little burg south of Anthony.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the OG of our Kanokla. It was called Harper County Telephone Company.
It was in Waldron.
Our smallest exchange.
Yeah.
I'm here for the small, right? And I'm a champion of rural and of the small. It does not matter how big you are on what you can do and the changes that you can make. So look what started in Waldron.
Right now we serve just over 2,600 members.
Members, yes. Voting members of a co-op. That they have voting rights. They all have a director that represents their region. That director has to live in their region. Those terms are 3 years, and we have term limits on our directors, which is very unusual for our industry. In our national association, we find that very few have limits. So it's very exciting to onboard a new director that comes from a different perspective, a different profession, a different skill set that they bring to the table, and then they add to that conversation. There's lots of difficult conversations in that room, and everybody brings their perspective.
What do you think that we do or that we bring to the table to bring these awesome services, fiber, IT services, our design and print? What do you think that we do here that sometimes gets overlooked by larger companies?
Oh, absolutely. We get to know you and your needs. So I think in the larger companies, you are a commodity on a shelf. You're going to go choose what you want, and hopefully you know what you're choosing. In ours, we ask a lot of questions. We want you to be satisfied and happy because we are here forever with you. Mm-hmm. That is one thing that we have, that stick-to-itness. We will always be here. We're not going anywhere. So we want to make sure down the line you're always satisfied. So I think the difference is we take the time to get to know you, trying to get a fuller picture. Are you trying to operate a small business in a climate where you need this connected to this? How about this? And especially our smart ag right now, we have a lot of outbuildings where we have some new technology that can reach even further, going to be able to enable some of those smart ag technologies. So I'm excited to where we get to know the industries that our customers are in so that we can build toward those. And a large provider would say, you come to us. Sorry.
What we have now with our customer service team, with our technicians, with our management team is we can grow larger and have this same experience. And if you ever, as a customer, come to us and have a complicated issue, this is your step. You call in. We have a short automated system with like 7 options, and then it's a person. Mm-hmm. And then the person who answers the phone is on our customer service team, and they may not be the ones that are going to solve your problem, but they know exactly who to get you to.
Right.
And then if your problem happens to be escalated or it is an issue that's going to involve multiple departments, our customer service supervisor, our other our other parts of the management team, we all communicate and we can tackle your issue with all of these departments.
Yes.
It's never so separated. So your end of the road, if you go all the way to the top to, let's say, you, mm-hmm. is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 or 4 levels, 3 or 4 people. Max. And
depends on
who's
in the office.
And it never even has to get to you because all of the decision making and the ability to solve problems is with everyone.
Yes.
It's give everyone the ability to solve your problem, to ask the questions like, no, you have the power to do that. We can fix this. We can make this work. And
with an urgency. We have an urgency to solve your problem for you faster. There is something inherent in the way we speak that. And so, yes, we all speak the same language. We all know what we want to do. Nobody's ever going to get hung up with a bottleneck. We never kick a can because we need to resolve it. And we need to usually resolve it that day, because we promise to show up and we're going to get to your problem solved that day. If we can't show up that day, we're going to be showing up as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. And whether the equipment arrives or what we're waiting, we never make excuses. We just have to figure out how to get you resolved, up, back, and working and doing your life. Nobody wants to think about their technology provider. We want to be in the background. If you never have a problem, we want to be that for you. Like that resilience, that robust ability to, I think about that gal out in the middle of a 30 miles from here on a farm, that has to upload these massive amounts of data in the middle of the night to Hong Kong. I mean, I never want us to be the reason she can't do her work.
Mm-hmm.
So there is something beautiful about the urgency of what we do silently and always that reliable piece.
So I want to go back over, we have 75 years of a rich history, talking about some of those pivotal moments of those game changers. The first one, of course, started before 1951.
Yeah.
With the group of rural folks, farmers and
Neighbors.
I was going to say, you say neighbors and I say townsfolk.
Townfolk.
And realizing that they could get support through REA.
If they banded together.
Yes, because there was no other way. They would have to come together to
Seeing
do it.
a way to get work done and not wait around for people, yes. So kudos to them. They got it started, and we band together to this day.
Yes, so we became a cooperative in 1951. And then what was the next moment or game changer, would you say, after that?
I would say maybe taking on Caldwell, building a community here, moving our headquarters. There's something very pivotal about that moment as well.
Right.
So moving to Caldwell made financial sense. It also, interestingly, shifted us east enough that it made us centrally located to our whole service area. That was another part of the number study that the Caldwell Development Group put together, a third-party feasibility study that they paid for just to prove the numbers. And it came out that our technicians would not have to drive as far, windshield time was what we call it, as far to meet our customer needs if they shifted over to Caldwell as well. But it did allow us to do some reshifting, and that positioned us perfectly for the next big change, which was the 1996 Telecom Act of modernization of the Universal Service Fund. No longer about telephone. Let's get into internet. Let's get into information. Game changer.
So after 1996, what happened? What would you say happened after that?
The game changer, I think, was taking on the tower builds for fixed wireless. So as we experimented in Harper and Medford, taking on that ability to reach our neighbors that have been asking for a long time, can you do this? Yes, let's figure this out. Knowing that we had friendlies with our farmers co-op grain elevators, we could climb up. Those were usually the tallest points in those towns, or a water tower. We were able to trade service. We'd barter, of course, for service, and that would help them get service, help us get service. They could spread the word for that. We all knew each other anyway. We're neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
In rural towns, as you know, you shop at different things in different towns. Never anything in one same place, right? So we know our region, and so that was a lot of fun.
So that fixed wireless started in 2000, 2001. And while that was happening, you mentioned the computers, and that grew into our full service business solutions, which is still evolving all the time.
To this day.
But they are primarily housed down here.
Down here.
Those teams, the Kanokla Design Studio and our IT team are down here, as long as, and of course, a portion of our customer service.
I believe no matter what industry you serve or what you work in, everybody has to have IT services of some sort. They have technology built in their company now of their business. Mm-hmm. And so we want to be there to help those businesses then elevate. We are, your help, your problem solver.
And our IT is shaped and developed every day by their biggest number one customer, us.
Yes. Yes, we are.
We offer these services to other businesses and organizations, but we use all of our services.
Right. And it's great firsthand practice on what we need so we can perfect that for our customer or do the best we can as fast as we can for the customer.
And then the last part of the transition with this building happened, we bought it in 1998. And what was it, 22? 22. We started the upstairs.
Mm-hmm. It was a history blocked in time. We stored Santa up there. He would make his appearance in the front window, and that was about it. And we attached our giant sign, which is getting a refresh this year in time for our anniversary. That Oddfellow space was pristinely intact. The tin ceiling was there. The floors had been covered by that wonderful linoleum thick padding to where the hardwood underneath was perfect. Getting that finally kicked off to serve us in other ways of being an event space for all of our youth involvement, our annual meeting especially, being able to have a nice space for our employees had grown so much. We were outgrowing our training room space in the headquarter building. So we were busting out of our seams, and we're able to use this space for the employees and our members all the time. Now, bonus, which it wasn't, the priority for that, is hosting events here. We've been able to host some very beautiful, wonderful events and have it open for the community.
And 2 lodging rooms.
We did double our lodging space in Caldwell from 2 rooms to 4 by taking that back space and turning it into 2 because of a community need. But we have our youth entrepreneurship challenge upstairs. We have youth summer camp for technology summer camp. A lot of youth projects for skilling our workforce for the future and making sure our longevity of having a skilled workforce for the needs that we have.
I would say one of the biggest pivotal moments would be our first fiber to the home project that started officially 2008.
2008 officially, we were approved. The board meetings were happening to decide to take on this massive investment, massive loan, massive amount of debt. We took that on in 2010 after we got all of our engineering done, all of our equipment in. So we built those communities with fiber optic, replacing all of our DSL lines. Now, we had put in copper. Copper has been around forever, whereas telephones work without electricity on copper. So it was a whole new world to enter a fiber optic world where your equipment is going in to need electricity. If we could do a tour of our central office, you would see every line going out of that central office as a one-to-one connection. You are not limited by how much you can use. So it was a game changer you had no more shared lines. You had no more shared for DSL. Upload, download were the same capacity, and that has not mattered as much until COVID. So I would say getting ahead of that game and being able to invest in that before we needed it is magic, because then you're ready for it. You're not behind.
So we finished our fiber to the home project in 2015.
Yeah.
And then just a couple of short years later, 2017.
Yes.
The next milestone that kind of changed our direction and we're currently in is
fiber to the home in Scheidler.
Yes, we purchased Scheidler
the purchase of the company. We did. And I would back up a year in 2016. We sold our spectrum, I'd say a speculative spectrum auction we participated in a few years earlier. We were able to sell that. So we had some funds to turn around and reinvest in things we know how to do, which is fiber optic. Privately owned family, wonderful family, the Whites. They had some pretty cool history. They began in 1920 in Winona. Wow. Yeah. So they ended up moving their headquarters to Scheidler up the road from Winona, and called it Scheidler Telephone Company. So I got into all of the history when we were doing the due diligence of the purchase, but meeting down there and getting to know them, it was very interesting when we first hit the scene in 2017 in Osage County. We served Kay County next door, of course, and Grant and Alfalfa and Major, but we hadn't got that far over there. So their first impression was we were a big corporation from Kansas coming to town. I'm like, well, we could be further from the truth. We are your neighbors. We are you. We know you. We are you. So we got to know them, traveled around the area, and that's what we do best is rural, remote areas. So there was no stranger to what we were doing. It was just, it's a lot rockier than what we are used to. And our rock saw, several rock saws going wild right now. And we've gotten some great photographs of that. Keeping up with the technology, you can stream anything over that glass of fiber. It's just the ends to ends that are talking to each other. On the other technology, you're dealing with full-on equipment replacement. It is very efficient compared to the rest of the choices. And we do things right the first time. In rural areas, you don't have a lot of wiggle room. You need to put it in right, do it the most cost-effective and efficient, the lowest interest loans, the longevity of the loan, the longevity of your company, and then the turnaround in in putting the electronics in proactively as fast as you can to keep the technology innovative. Once you're behind, it's more expensive to catch up.
So one that I got to experience since coming on in 2018, that just from when I started in 2018 to 2020, COVID, totally changed how we worked, a lot of our internal policies, and let's say a big boom of broadband funding. So one of the most recent pivotal moments. There will never be another time like it.
You're right. And we still have remnants from COVID that affect us to this day.
Yep.
Of course, a lot of terrible things happened during COVID, but really pointing to some of the things that came from that, the sufferers were our anchor institutions. You had schools, you had hospitals, you had businesses, you had lifeline services type of thing happening out here that were struggling, where people were going to be able to go to work, how they were going to go to work, ourselves. How were we going to, everybody all of a sudden was sent home to work and do school. How were we going to connect them that hadn't had connection, or their families were returning to our member areas and moving in with mom and dad so they could teach and work from their home? They'd bring their laptops, their computers, like getting service where they had never had it. Well, fortunately, when we did our fiber project, we buried every line down the road and to every home, whether they took the service or not. All that we had to do was flip a switch on. It was magic in that we had already had that hard work done. I would say those companies that did not would struggle. That's where you're going to find a lot of hoops to jump through to try to figure out how you were going to get that delivered. We continued being an essential service, as we were labeled, as to get that service out there. So our technicians never stopped coming in the office because they don't work in the office, right? They're delivering this service out into the field. But how people want to live changed. Riding up an elevator in a big city was no longer comfortable with people you didn't know. You didn't know where their germs were from or what was breathing, right? So you wanted to get out. And as they were trying to find their way out, it's really caused a surge in demand for how to live in the rural areas. So as all of our country is, we are massively behind in housing and housing stock, and the ability to refresh and restore some of the long dilapidated buildings in some of our rural communities. But the magic is, if you want to build new out here or replace or move out here, you have fiber optic. We will actually build to you wherever you want to live in our service area, in our member footprint. That is the incentive to let you work from anywhere. If you work remotely and your company allows you to, or you want to start a new business or relocate your business, relocate your family, that's been happening in a lot of our communities. We're excited to see that happen. So I'm taking all the good I can in my positivity about COVID and what it brought to us. But that ability to work from anywhere, that freedom to live where you want, I love that our work was already done and now it's already paid for of what we have sunk in the ground. Now let's build vertically on top of that, where we live and work and enjoy our communities. Let's just make the most of that. So that's our next adventure into really building the community. Our mission as a cooperative is to serve the communities that we serve, of course, improve them. So that means a lot of different things, but improving the lives of our members and the communities we serve can go many different ways. And we really live those values, and we live into that because we do live here. We do work here. We have a headquarters here. We don't send our profits off to some other headquarters in a big city. We do spend our payroll here. We want our employees to live in the communities we serve, and we show up to volunteer and to do the important work that communities need to bind together. So I find it all very conducive to growing on top of the broadband that's under the ground that will be there forever, and building our Forever Fund to try to fill those gaps of infrastructure need of some century-old communities that we are fortunate to serve as their cooperative provider.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on our podcast that you forced me to do. No, I'm just kidding.
Delighted.
I hope you've enjoyed being a guest on the podcast that you forced us to create. No, it's been
Absolutely.
great. We've told some really great stories, and anytime that we can have a moment to come on and still share our story.
Yes.
Because as you were talking about, we are so intertwined. It's all intertwined.
All of us
Fiber
binding together. It's all threaded
utilities,
together.
Yes. And communities working together, and our next step into the Forever Fund.
Yes.
I mean, it's all a part of it. And I just love sharing that, especially 75 years. Our annual meeting is coming up.
I know. And I love looking back just for a little nostalgia, but man, I love where we're going. I love looking forward because it is just building upon itself to be able to do some really incredible things for rural. And if we don't talk about rural, which is what the podcast is valuable for, we've had some very cool stories of people doing very incredible things in our communities. Otherwise, people aren't going to know that. So I really love talking about the rurality and what that means, and just really shaping the tone of that, because there's so much people don't know. The magic of it is what we do together and how we bind together. So forging this future together with our communities is going to be pretty exciting, and I'm very, very happy for where we are and what the work that we do.
Which is a lot of our messaging this year at our meeting. April 24th, doors open at 4:30. Am I forgetting? We'll have our business meeting. We have a lot of fun participation from some small businesses, from our prizes to our meal, appetizers, and then we do have some entertainment after the business meeting. But yes, we did this podcast just in time for that.
I'm excited for the celebration. It'll be a pure celebration. I love the entertainment value that we're bringing this year. And of course we love, investing in our small town communities, our small communities, small businesses, I should say. And we can pull in people that make things and serve, our community in our annual meeting that way. It's really just a way to multiply that effort of supporting rural. So we love to